Welcome back to Blow Up the Team podcast. I'm here with Matt. You can say hi, you're just going to sit there silently.
No, I'm playing Hearthstone, don't worry.
You're playing Hearthstone. Glad to see you care about the Atlanta Falcons draft grade. Um,
Hitting play, and we're being welcomed into the hearth.
alright. So, as you can see, Matt is mentally checked out after he went and did his video on
I
the
did that, and then I've just been mentally checked out for like the past couple hours. It's like after D&D, I've just been so
valid.
I went and watched an episode of Bodyguard, and I honestly couldn't tell you what thing that fucking happened.
That's
Like,
valid. So, anyways, he went and he did his video on the Atlanta Braves. So go and check that out. It should come out a few hours after this one. So go ahead and check that out. So today, like I said, we're gonna be here with the Atlanta Falcons NFL Draft recap and grade. One quick note: so I tried to keep my football video pretty short for the last one, and I missed quite a bit in my effort to make it shorter. Um, and it seems like based on the comments that I got that people would rather me be more in depth and make sure that I cover all my bases as opposed to kind of cutting some stuff out. Like for example, I didn't bring up the trade for DeAndre Hopkins. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league because I didn't consider that as part of a draft grade analysis because I didn't think that that was part of the draft. So then that was brought up in the comments, and he's absolutely right. I should have brought it up, but in a effort to save time, I cut it out because in my mind I was like, okay, people know that DeAndre Hopkins is on the team, so they're gonna take that into account uh, with what I'm saying. But it didn't work out that way, so now I'm gonna make it a little bit longer and a little bit more in depth. So um, you can expect the next few episodes, and I probably the remaining episodes on my front to be a little bit longer than the first one. But with that being said, I don't think I have any other opening notes. Do you, Matt?
Not really, other than the fact that I really hope none of my other videos turn out to be 30 minutes long. Holy shit.
Well, both of your first two are 30, so you're
Oh
0
my,
for 2.
oh God.
To be fair,
Okay.
to
I
be
need to get,
fair, the first one I trolled you the whole way through,
yes, you did.
and then this last one you were doing great. You were done in 20 minutes, and then I just added 10 minutes of trolling on at the end.
Yeah. So actually, you know what? No, I'm doing great. You need to fuck off. Thank you.
I felt so bad for this last one because I was just checked out the whole time, did not say anything. So I'm like,
I
all
was
right,
just so confused, cause I think I'm like, I could have sworn I finished this. Why are we here? Mentally,
I
like,
just kept
why are
going,
we
man. I
here?
was just like, well, I haven't said anything. Time to troll, I guess. And so I just went off. But anyways, before we add 10 minutes of trolling to the beginning of this video, let's get this one rolling. So I'm going to start off with some notes just from the offseason generally before I get into the actual draft itself. The Falcons are now looking at a new offensive coordinator who has a run-heavy offense. I cannot remember the gentleman's name for some reason. I definitely should have written that down. Let's just look it up. Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator.
Production value.
I can't even pronounce this guy's name. I'm sorry, Dirk. I'm that last name. Matt, you want to try the last name?
Dirk Ketter.
Ketter?
I'm
The
gonna say
O
Ketter.
screws with my head, I think, a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
no, and I feel like it's gonna be one of those that it just doesn't look the way it should.
all right. So we'll go with Dirk Ketter. Now, as you can see here, this is alluding a little bit to what I'm going to talk about today. It's a Todd Gurley. Um, okay, so they added a run-heavy offense, and last season they were 30th in the league in rushing yards. Devontae Freeman was their leading rusher at 656 yards. I'm sorry, that cadence was really poor. I don't know what happened there, to be honest with you. Um, but obviously they need to put in some work on the running game, and so unfortunately, the Devontae Freeman was hurt a little bit last season. He has been for the past few seasons. I did see a video earlier that one analyst was predicting him to be like one of the most likely to rush for 2,000 yards or something. I don't know what's good with that. He's
Falcons are
actually
releasing
currently unsigned,
Brian Hill's a guy.
according to this, which I personally I don't see where he signs other than going back to Atlanta. It doesn't really necessarily perfectly fit, but I think he's going to go back to Atlanta. That's my personal opinion. But keep that in mind as we move forward. Matt Ryan was sacked 48 times last season. He threw 14 interceptions and 26 touchdowns, and he's 34. So he had a pretty good productive season. I don't see that they think they really need to move on from him. So quarterback wasn't necessarily something that was going to be a top priority for them. And they have Matt Schaub on the roster, who's a veteran guy. I don't know if he's coming back this season for sure, but I didn't see anything that said that he didn't. And he's a veteran guy. He's got a lot of experience. He can fill in. When if Matt Ryan was to get hurt, hopefully, obviously, knock on wood, he does not. Tight end was a big hole for them. They had Austin Hooper, but they lost him to the Browns in free agency. So they had Jaden Graham left, and they traded for Hayden Hurst from Baltimore. Hayden Hurst, I think, could potentially become a big part of this offense if he's implemented correctly. But again, everything's going to hinge around with how this new offensive scheme works with a run-heavy offense. And then this is going to speak directly to the team needs. Defensive end was at the top of their team needs, and they released Vic Beasley, their best defensive end. That's probably why it's listed as a top team need. But they also released Desmond Trufant, so that's their top corner also gone. So they had a lot of holes that opened up this year that they had to go and fill in. And if it doesn't seem like they're completely sold on Devonta Freeman. Otherwise, they would have already signed him back. So while I may, in my mind, think that he probably winds up back there, he's not signed yet. And so we have to assume that he's not going to be back. So that leaves a lot of questions in terms of, where is this team going to end up? They have Todd Gurley, but Todd Gurley was one of the things I want to talk about really quickly. You don't know what you're going to get from him next season. Obviously he's been a stud in the league for the last like 4 or 5 years now, just complete stud. But he just didn't seem to be quite his old self last year. You're looking at 1,000-yard seasons, 2015, 17, and 18, and then 2019 he racked up 857 yards. But watching him run the eye test, it just didn't seem like he was quite as dominant as he was in 2018 and 2017.
Yeah, you know what other tests he didn't pass?
What?
My fantasy football pass.
Oh, yeah.
Test. What?
Production was way down.
Ass.
If you were one of those fantasy guys that drafted him, top 4 or 5 picks, which I know some people did, that's not the production you want to see from him. So he just did not quite bounce back from that injury that he sustained at the end of 2018, and he just looked a little bit off all season long. So you hope that he bounces back and he works well in this scheme. But without Devonta Freeman, who's going to be their second running back? So those are the questions that I have in my head as I go into grading this. That being said, they went first round. They went out and they got their cornerback of the future. Having released Desmond Trufant, I actually don't know the timing on if they had already released him or they planned to release him, but regardless, A.J. Terrell out of Clemson, press corner, corners for me top in the first round. Now, obviously, in my opinion, this was the best pick available for them for what they needed left in the draft. However, cornerbacks always scare me a little bit in the first round because there's some guys that just have all the assets. They can be, they could have good size, good hands, all that stuff. But reading an offense in a quarterback's eyes on a professional level is completely different than college. So I like the pick. I definitely think that it's going to work out well for them. But it's all going to come down to how well does he acclimate to the NFL and how quickly can he acclimate to the NFL. Because if they're looking for help for next season, which I know a lot of Falcons fans, that division was already a rough division and it's only getting rougher. So you're going to be looking for immediate help from him, and it's just a matter of can he provide that for you is what I'm going to be looking at. I personally believe that was their best option that was left. If we come in here and we look at the rounds and we look at the players that were drafted just after him, you went wide receiver, tackle, and then we have this other corner here, which I know there was some contention maybe on if they should have gone Terrell or Arnett. I don't. Again, I'm not okay. I'm not the most well versed in the difference between these two players specifically, but I did get to see AJ Terrell play again out of Clemson, having played going to school at the University of South Carolina. I can tell you that he passed the eye test watching him play against South Carolina, but that does not mean that he's going to pass it moving up to the next level. So I did see a couple arguments online that they should have gone with this guy. Um, in my opinion, I'm gonna go with the guy from Clemson, just because I guess I have more experience watching him. So admitting full bias there. Um, it's a rough time to be a Gamecock fan. Let's just say that. Um, moving on down the list, they went defensive tackle here in the second round. They needed defensive tackle help, for sure. What the question mark for me is why tackle over end? That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for me. They're one of their most productive. Oh, this was not what I wanted to open up. I'm sorry. Um, they had a very productive season out of there. I don't know why this tab is not open. I'm so sorry. Um, I think it was Grady Jarrett, if I'm not mistaken. Um, sorry, I'm a little frazzled. I had a rough day, but yeah. So Vic Beasley, they lost their big defensive end, 8 sacks off the end, but Grady Jarrett was huge plugging up the middle for them. Um, they obviously, if you could have two big guys in there plugging up the middle,
Yeah, he had his
that's
best
better than
season.
just having the one. So I can understand the argument there that you got to take the best player on the board. But for me, especially losing Vic Beasley, I think he wound up in Tennessee. Yeah, Tennessee he wound up in. You're going to need defensive end help, and you're going to need defensive end help fast. If you come back to the defense and you look at their other production, Adrian Claiborne is their next highest sack total. He is now in Cleveland. And then you start getting further down the list. Okay, he stayed with the Falcons, but you don't have that star player off the edge like you had in Vic Beasley, and you've already got that star middle rusher with Grady Jarrett. So I would have personally liked to have seen them go defensive end here. Um, However, they did just need defensive line help in general, and you can, if he was the best player on the board based on their metrics, I can see that. Although it does look like they had a defensive end go right after. So there is a little bit of contention in my mind, um, on why did they what did they I guess they must have seen something special in this guy, right? They must have seen something special about his ability to defend the run and stuff like that. So I would be interested to see how that pans out for them. If Darrell Taylor comes out and becomes an impactful player early, I could definitely see the Falcons regretting that decision a little bit. Losing, like I keep saying, losing Vic Beasley is a huge loss for that defense. So not being able to replace him in the draft could be detrimental for them moving forward. Um, but moving on down the line, they went back for their new run heavy offense. They picked up themselves a center, young guy out of Temple. Um, from what I saw, I'm gonna be completely honest. From the third round on, I only kind of like quickly looked at these guys. I didn't maybe do all of my research on him, but from what I saw, he just seemed to be a solid zone blocker. He seemed to move his feet fairly well. Um, but you know, it's all going to be contingent on what can he do again in that scheme blocking for Todd Gurley, and what will Todd Gurley be able to produce from behind him. He can he can make a hole 8 feet wide, but if Todd Gurley just doesn't have that second gear to get past the second level, he could be opening up holes that are big enough for 10, 15-yard runs that are only 4 or 5 yards, and that will wear down the defense for sure, but it's not what they're looking for out of such a run-heavy offense. And as we get further down here, they went inside linebacker, safety, punter. Now the punter pick, you always hear people joke that they actually picked a punter because a lot of times you can just sign them in free agency. But from what I saw, this guy seems to have fairly good leg strength, so I guess they needed a punter, so why not go out and draft one? The safety pick is a little questionable to me. Again, this is the fourth round, so it was still fairly early in the draft. There was probably still some talent out there. Um, they could have gone, I don't know. It's hard when you get back into the later rounds, especially late in the fourth round and stuff like that. You know, there's still a chance that all those guys, obviously, the famous story of Tom Brady being taken so late in the draft and being able to, become arguably the best quarterback of all time. Is there still an argument about that? I don't. You see, I think that Matt, do you have an opinion on this? I think Tom Brady had the best career. I don't think skill wise he's the best quarterback ever. Is that am I gonna get flamed for that?
I don't think it's a good thing for that.
I think that's fair. I'm not taking anything away from the guy. He had a fantastic career, unrivaled in my opinion. But I just don't know if I could sit here and honestly say, yeah, Tom Brady was just a straight up, just skills wise, just best quarterback ever. I don't know that I can say that. That's just me. Um, but yeah, the safety decision here, I would have liked to have seen them maybe kind of if they're gonna, um, they went inside linebacker earlier in the fourth round. They're gonna go defense again here, most likely. It makes sense. They need a lot more help on the defense than on the offense. They've got an outstanding wide receiver core next to Matt Ryan. They've got obviously Julio Jones, and then unfortunately, one of my favorite players. They traded Mohamed Sanu away, but in terms of actual um, Calvin Ridley is just a very talented wide receiver over there. So they don't. The tight end question I brought up earlier, that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But they definitely have the talent to be able um, to get the ball outside the dashes and kind of let those guys run. So we'll see how that plays itself out. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that all plays itself out. Um, but yeah, I think overall for them, I think they made a great pick with the going corner first. And then I like the defensive tackle pick. I think he'll be a great player to play next to Grady Jarrett. I think they could have maybe taken that defensive end second, but I don't. Obviously, I'm going to defer to the experts on that one. They probably watched a lot more film on these players than I do. Um, but I would say overall, they definitely at the position I feel like they needed the most help. They struck out. I think defensive end was they were going to need a replacement for Vic Beasley. I don't see that guy on the roster. Um, like I said, I brought up earlier. You do have somebody like McKinley or something like that, but I just don't see him stepping up and filling in for Vic Beasley. I think Vic Beasley had a much bigger impact on that defense than um, he can fill in for, and I would have liked to have seen them pick up a defensive end early here in this second round. But overall, I think grade-wise, I don't know why the base grade is an F because I'm not giving them an F. I would say having, I think they did well to pick up Terrell here. Um, good speed, good press corner. It's just going to be a matter of him learning to be able to read the professional offenses. And other than that, I think they did a good job. They did a solid job picking up and covering holes. Um, but I don't think they covered all of their bases as well as they maybe could have. Now, I have not. This is specifically only about the draft. This is not about the offseason as a whole, right? So, this is not about if they went out and they signed an offensive guard or they signed an outside linebacker, signed a defensive end. This is just purely based on going into the draft, what I thought that they needed. And if I missed something, um, I'm not. I'm sure a lot of you guys watching are much bigger experts on your favorite team than me. I don't claim to be an expert on them. So if I missed something, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. But I'm going to say based on what I saw and what I was seeing when I researched, I'm going to give them, a B on their draft. Actually, a B minus. I think they did a solid job, and they definitely did I think Desmond Trufant was going to be another big piece of that defense that they needed to be able to replace, and AJ Terrell is going to be that guy for them. But the rest of The rest of the draft, I think, kind of went mediocre for them. Obviously, it's a lot. It's very easy for me to say that from sitting at home. Um, but I think they did leave a couple holes here, like that they needed to fill, and I don't think they gave themselves enough options. Quite honestly, even if you don't look at holes that they have, I don't think they gave themselves necessarily enough options running the football. If you want to have a run-heavy offense, you need to have more than one running back, and obviously the big name, the big move for them was getting. Why is this not coming up now? It was showing it before. Um, was getting Todd Gurley. But you don't really have another running back that I can really point to on the roster and say, you know what, you can hand him the ball. He can take some of the load off. So um, that's what I got. You have anything to add, Matt? You were pretty quiet over there. How's your Hearthstone gear going?
Oh, I haven't been playing Hearthstone. Don't worry, I've been listening to you this whole time. That was just a joke.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm not quite as vocal on the Falcons. I don't really have as much to say about them as I did the Cardinals. Like, I don't know. I think um, I would have graded them a little lower just because they, like I said, Todd Gurley is your guy. He can be, he absolutely can be. But I don't know. After the season he had last year, if he doesn't, if he breaks out of it, I think it earns the B minus. But just regardless, I think they needed to draft a running back somewhere in there, and they just didn't. So.
The only reason I'm gonna bump them up to that B minus is I really like this AJ Terrell pickup for them. Um, I honestly could have seen him going higher if teams needed corners and they looked his way. I wouldn't have been too surprised. Um, like it even like obviously the first thing you see physically gifted. You know, Clemson is known for having those kind of stud guys. I mean, if you look at it, what did we talk about yesterday? The big pickup for the Cardinals was Isaiah Simmons, outside linebacker, right? Well, you come
Hmm.
over here, another first big pickup, huge pickup for them is a corner out of Clemson. So Clemson clearly just has a great program over there. Credit to them. Hate to see it as a Carolina attendee, but you know, um, I think that was a huge pickup for them, and so I'm honestly giving them like weighted wise, the first pick is really is obviously the biggest pick that you can make, and then obviously the rest of the picks are obviously big as well. But the first one is the big one, and I think they got that one right. I think he'll be able to fill in nicely for Desmond Trufant, and obviously be cheaper because he's gonna be on a rookie deal. So I like that signing a lot. And then I'm not too mad at the defensive tackle instead of defensive end situation. I definitely think that if he can get in there with Grady Jarrett and they can just have two monsters in there and put a lot of pressure on the interior of that offensive line and kind of clog up the middle, make it hard for other teams to run. There's a lot of value in that. So I'm gonna bump them up to that B minus because I think they did a superb job on the first two picks, but I do think they left themselves open with some holes. So that's ultimately why I decided B minus. The rest of the draft I don't think was bad. Like Jalen Hawkins out of California, you know, there's not a whole lot on this kid. I didn't look that hard either, but I just just kind of you look through the pre-draft analysis and stuff like that, and you know he's just not a name that catches my attention. But that does not mean at all that he's not going to be an impactful player for them. So it was talking about him being a run stopper, and there's value in that. There really is. I mean, Malcolm Jenkins is one of the safeties that I kind of default to when I'm grading other safeties, and you know, don't get me wrong, he could cover great. He's a great safety. That's why he was one of the best safeties in the league. I'm saying one of. I'm not saying the best. Don't attack me. I'm an Eagles fan. I'm biased. I get to say that. But you know, playing the run, being able to step up and clog and help, stop running backs who do get to that second level, that could be big. So I don't hate this pick. I just think they could have looked somewhere else. So that's why I landed at B minus. I think that there are more holes that the team had than just what these five things were here. So I'm not. Again, I think defensive end was big. Outside linebacker. Uh, uh, I think that they have other guys on the roster who could step in and fill that. And you know, if you needed to, you could run a lot more nickel. You could have less. Like you can run more nickel. You can run dime packages even if you needed to in cover situations. Obviously, you're not going to just run a nickel all the time. But um, you know, when you need to step back and drop into coverage, you can kind of get the outside linebacker spot to hide a little bit if you needed to. So I'm not too worried about that. And then offensive guard, they definitely needed help on the interior of the line. They got that with their center. I wouldn't be surprised um, if they do some movement along that offensive line and, you find some stuff in free agency. I haven't done my. This is specifically supposed to be a draft video, so I'm not gonna grade them too harshly on that. They needed help interior. They got all the way interior instead of guard, so that's why I landed on B minus.
All right.
No opinion, no jokes, no snide remarks.
The Falcons have had enough depression. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's nothing. There's literally the thing is like the Falcons. There's literally nothing I could say. There's nothing I could blame them for that they don't already know.
I
Like
mean, you could
there's
step
no.
up and just bring up that one Super Bowl run and then
No,
just
I'm
call it
not
a
going to
day.
because you know what it's such a cheap shot. The moment you just say Super Bowl, it's the first thing I think about. You could say like, "Oh, hey, can't wait for the Super Bowl this weekend," and they're not going to think about the fact like the Super Bowl that's currently happening. They're thinking about that one, and I'm just gonna say that one. I think if they hear the word that one, or if they just hear the number 28 or the number 3, like 3 o'clock in the morning, shit, I'm thinking about it again. Like they've been through enough. They're never gonna stop. Like it's just, there's nothing I can say that will be. There's nothing I can say.
I'm gonna amend. I'm gonna say B minus. I think that it's like a border C plus B minus for me because they did pick this. I didn't realize they picked this safety right above a guard here, which is a position of need for them. Again, I don't hate the pick, but that would have been something interesting to look at. But I don't know. I think borderline C plus B minus, and I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that they are analysts and know more than me. So I'm gonna go ahead and give them the nod to that B minus. The thing that the common thing for me is unless I think somebody genuinely just completely botched a pick, you're not gonna see a lot of very low ratings from me. Because the thing with the NFL draft is there are so many players that enter the draft that it's almost impossible to genuinely keep track of every single prospect that comes into the draft. So and all of these guys have potential because they all show the reason why they're all drafted is because they show promise at the college level. And what you can't tell, and I think that football is one of the hardest sports to be able to tell, is how their game will transfer to the NFL. So I mean, if you look at some of the highest level, like highest touted prospects, mostly at the quarterback position, because those seem to be the ones that get the most attention. But I mean, look at Baker Mayfield, number one pick in the draft. Johnny Manziel, number one pick in the draft. Johnny Manziel's out of the league. You know what I'm saying? Tim
Johnny
Tebow.
Manziel sells insurance. Not
Well,
even
okay, to be
joking.
fair,
He had a fucking radio ad. It's hilarious.
to be fair, he did had his run in with drugs, so it wasn't necessarily all about the talent for him. But he, Tim Tebow, another guy, he had a few years in the league, and honestly, I thought he was great in Denver. But he went to New York and he backed up Mark Sanchez and then disappeared off the map. So it's so hit or miss. Like we brought up Tom Brady. Late in the draft, he comes out and I would say pretty much inarguably the best career a quarterback has had in the league. So there's going to be a lot of kind of like B minus to B plus range for me just because it's so hard to grade harshly because all the guys have potential upside if they can get adjusted to the speed of the NFL properly. But if they can't, there's nothing you can do about it because they all show promise. So that's where I stand on that. You probably won't see a grade lower than a C or C plus for me. Like there will not be an F grade
Unless a
in
team
this.
like literally just says, "Oh, hey, we have zero offense. We're going to draft more defense." Like,
Yeah, they would have to. They would have to do something
it's
really,
like
really
as long as
stupid.
it's like something like that. Like, it's,
Yeah, and I wouldn't count on that happening. So, that's it for me. Matt, you have anything else to add?
nope.
Think I covered it all? Did I do better at covering my bases this time?
I think so.
So that
I
being
think
said,
it was much more put together.
yeah, I was trying so hard to keep it really short, and I guess I've just come to the conclusion it's better to cover your bases and make it a little bit longer
As
than.
long as we can like stick around the half hour mark at the latest, Joe.
Yeah. And
Oh
we're
no,
coming
we're
up
after
on
this
that.
right now.
We're coming that right now. It actually just hit 30 minutes. So I'm gonna say,
Enough.
if you enjoyed the video, please go subscribe to the channel. Check out our Twitter, Instagram, and drop a follow there. Also check out our Discord. That link will be down in the description as well. If you like the video, feel free to drop a like or drop a comment if you have anything that you'd like to add. I do respond to the comments if I see them. So if you get a paragraph from me, it's because I think in paragraphs, unfortunately, because my brain doesn't go in a straight line. It hits 4 other points before it gets to straight line. So, um, but I will respond. So feel free to drop anything down in the comments below, and if there's anything else you'd like to see us do. Um, Final comment, final note from
Nothing
Matt.
I have to add.
Nothing you have to add at all? All right. Well, then in that case, tomorrow we got Baltimore. So make sure to stop by for that and check out Matt's Atlanta Braves video. Will come out in quite in a few hours here. So thanks for
Hey,
watching. And we'll see.
congratulations to both of us. That is my phone, though. We recorded before 3 or 4 in the fucking morning.
All right, listen, man.
Holy shit.
We don't get to tout it off too bad. It's still pretty late.
I mean, for us, though.
True, but I was
It's
up
an
at 8:30 this
accomplishment.
morning.
Yeah, well, I don't hate myself and want to look at the stock market, so
That valid, very valid. No arguments here.
I go to bed when I feel like it, and I'll wake up whenever, I start feeling like I'm going to actually die if I lay down any
Also,
longer.
small off topic comment. He bullied me into changing my backgrounds, so there will not be CS:GO in the
That's a
background.
pretty sweet background. That's a pretty sweet background.
You approve of that one too?
Yeah, that's a great background for a desktop. I like that.
So it was for the longest time some CS:GO backgrounds, but it will probably be a scrolling picture of almost all LeBron pictures because that's what I had on my desktop for whatever reason, and that was the first thing I found. So, anyways, thanks for watching. Uh, like, comment, subscribe, all that, and we'll see you next time. Peace.